This guy's victimhood mentality is just it's a form of a disease at this point, right? It is a form of a disease. This is a virus.
All right. I'm here to ask the age-old question, DEI.
Okay, great.
Yeah, give me your perspective on DEI, and because based on what I heard earlier, I feel like you don't think I belong here.
Oh,
because
really?
Of
Why?
how I am a black man, and because of DEI, I'm not qualified enough
Are you?
to be here. Yes, I am.
Okay, great, then you belong.
But why do I have to prove that to you?
You don't. You brought it up, I didn't.
Okay, but can you explain to me your position on DEI?
Yes, people should not be in positions just because of the color of their skin. Hard stop.
Okay, but do you feel like I'm here because
I'm not feeling anything towards you, actually.
Okay,
I'm not prejudicing you, I'm not stereotyping you. I'm saying that it's a material.
I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are.
No, you are. You said I don't feel comfortable being here. You started with.
I didn't say I wasn't comfortable being here. I said I feel like you made it to where I got here through DEI.
So let's examine that. What have I said that makes you feel that way?
When you mentioned how DEI is only just putting people of color and marginalized groups in spaces, even if they're not so
correct.
Qualified.
That's exactly what DEI does.
But that's not all that it does. You're categorizing it as something it isn't.
No, that's exact. That is the charter mission.
That's not all.
Okay,
that it
so
does.
diversity, equity. So equity is outcome based. Okay. Is about making people who are of different skin colors have the same outcome, regardless whether or not they are qualified. The best example we have of this is the Students for Fair Admission Harvard Supreme Court case, where black students, they could have a SAT score 300 points lesser than the Asian equivalent and still get into Harvard. That is DEI in practice. I believe when you're hiring for an organization or for a company or for whatever you are doing, you should prioritize merit and character, and race should mean nothing. We should build around things that matter and not things that don't matter.
This is 100% ironic, because what doesn't make any sense is that people were fighting for a colorblind society, right? Just base us and judge us based on our character, our attitude, our merits, and who we are as a person. But now they want to add race to it. It's like it's going backwards. DEI literally seems like it's taking this country actually backwards, because if you're using race to determine if somebody should be admitted in a job or a university, that's race-based policies and laws. That's literally how the past was set up, right? It was race-based policies. If you are white, you couldn't do. If you weren't white, you couldn't do this. You couldn't go in here. You can attend that. That's race-based policies. That's the same thing DEI does. Is, hey, if you are black or an immigrant, or you're from a different country, or you have a different skin color, you're gonna get priority. I mean, reverse that, right? Because that's how I look at it. These people don't believe in DEI 100%. They only believe in DEI that benefits them. Because if you believe in DEI 100%, you would apply this across every single spectrum, whether it is in places where black people are not represented and in places where black people are also represented. If you want to set up this country and this civilization based or to mirror the population, the percentage of how this population is broken down to, well, if the country is 60% white, then every single organization should be 60% white, and 13% or 12%, whatever the black population is. So that would also include where black people are overrepresented, whether it be in Hollywood or in sports or in universities, right? Even HBCUs, right? You have to take this all the way. Where does it stop? Where do we draw the line? Because HBCUs are majority black. So if we want to be diverse and inclusive, well, you have to start letting white people in. This will literally destroy HBCUs. HBCUs would no longer exist. Black spaces will no longer exist, right? Where do we draw the line? If you want more white people or more black people represented in white universities, then you also have to get more white people represented in black universities. In the NFL, which is 53% black. So the NFL has to start hiring more white people to play in whatever positions. This is why this policy in DEI does not work. It does not work because you have to take this logic all the way to its extreme end. And that is its extreme end. Hey, if we're doing race-based quotas, then you have to represent the country. Then you have to put 60% white people in every single organization, 13% black people in every single organization. That's what just makes sense to me. That's the logical ending, in my opinion. This is nonsense.
You have to also take into the fact that black people have only been able to completely legally be able to make profit for themselves for around 60 years. And this is, no. Since segregation ended in 1965 and the Equal Rights Act in 1965, so what you're talking, there's not.
How does that, so let's talk about you. How did that impact you? How did something that happened 60 years ago impact your life?
It impacts me all the time.
How?
What do you, okay.
You're at Texas A&M, you're doing great.
Okay, yes, sure, yeah.
So aren't you a living example that all that's a bunch of nonsense and you could just act good and, behave well and succeed?
But there's also living examples of the exact opposite. If you look in the impoverished neighborhoods in certain parts of Chicago or St. Louis, there's black communities being thrown aside because they're not getting education.
Thrown aside? Okay,
yes,
so
aside.
I think we can get somewhere. Why have the black community gotten poorer since the passage of the Civil Rights Act? Tell me that.
Because of the way the culture has been perpetuated through the years.
Hold on. Think about it. So they were richer when we were segregated and more racist. America's become less racist.
What about Tulsa?
Yeah, no one's going to defend what happened in Tulsa again. But let's talk. We're talking about a lot of different cities. We're talking about Chicago, Tulsa. But let's again. This is a very important point. Why is it that Black America has gotten richer on average, poorer on average, since America passed all these anti-racist laws?
I can't answer them.
Okay, yeah. So do you think the fact that 70% of black youth don't have a dad around is probably pretty important?
That's because of the culture.
So respectfully allow me to interject. How does the white culture impact the fact whether or not a black dad stays around when he impregnates a woman?
I'm not saying it's the white culture.
What is it?
The culture that has been perpetuated through the 200 years of slavery, the 100 years of segregation, and Jim Crow laws.
The marriage, so I got to interject again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt too much. But in 1960, before the Civil Rights Act, 20% of black youth had a dad around. Now it's, 20% were single fathers, 80% had a dad around. It's been inverted. So we actually have seen black dads run away from their kids the last 60 years. Why is that?
Because of the raised incarceration rates, because of the perpetuated culture.
So how does one go to jail?
That's obvious. I'm not answering that question.
Yeah, so maybe it's because they committed crimes?
Okay, but when you're forced it's not just this is old, this is in the past, this doesn't affect you anymore.
Okay, so actually let's take a different group. How did the Holocaust impact Jews? They're doing pretty well.
Well, because they got reparations, we didn't.
How? What reparations did the Jews get?
Through acknowledgement, through money, through
we acknowledge slavery happened.
Okay, but you're sitting here and acting like it plays no role.
No, but to your argument, the Holocaust was 80 years ago. Half of all the Jews on the planet were killed. Everything they earned was taken. Jews are doing great. They're the wealthiest subgroup, racial group or ethnic group in America. If all of a sudden something that happened 80 years ago impacts your material prosperity, how did Jews defy the curve? How did poor Asians do so well? Why is it that Asians are now the wealthiest minority in America, many of whom came with no money in the 1950s or 60s?
Because of the culture and opportunities that were provided to them.
But you're not hearing me out. Black Americans have had the same opportunities. However,
people still look at us like criminals every day.
Hold on, but I don't look at you like a criminal.
I'm not saying you do, I'm saying some people do.
But I mean, do you want me to be brutally honest with you or do you want me to be politically correct?
Yes, be brutally honest with me.
Okay, do black people commit more crimes than white people? It's not even close.
Okay, but you have to take into account the culture that has been perpetuated.
Okay, got it. So we can agree on this. Do you mean internal black culture?
It's deeper than that.
Do you think, let's take time out. Do you think the average rap artist that a black kid in the hood is listening to is glorifying marriage and family and saving your money?
that's what sells because it's a culture thing. It's not just within the black community.
I agree. No, but hold on.
Everyone listens to it. It's not just isolated.
It's bad for everyone who listens to it. The point being is that black youth, as they are being raised, their role models are largely not glorifying staying with one woman, getting married, going to church. And if you're wrong, show me the black role models that are doing that. There might be a couple I could think of, maybe. But if it's about culture, you're right. The internal black culture has collapsed the last 60 years. We're no longer elevating the family. We're no longer elevating staying with the person that you're with. So our contention here as conservatives is that the systemic racism stuff is a bunch of rubbish. Instead, it's systemic bad choices.
If you're a homeowner, you need to listen to this. When's the last time you checked on your home title? That's the legal proof that you own your house. If you're like me, the answer is spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HometitleLock.com now. Use promo code Kirk. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Kirk.
Do you feel that systemic racism isn't real?
Of course not. What can I do that you can't do? Name it.
Okay.
No, seriously. What can I do that you can't do?
Fallacy. That's a slippery slope.
No, it's not.
I don't know why.
Very simple. No, because back in 1940, you would have been able to answer that question. Well, Charlie, there's a bathroom over there that I can't go to. There's a major league team.
I can't walk into the grocery store and get the same looks that you do. I walked into Brookshire Brothers a couple of weeks ago when I was looked at.
That's an insanely hyper paranoid way of living life. That's not evidence, right?
It's a real example.
By the way, if I walk into a black neighborhood, I get bad looks too. Okay, so I don't know what the contention is.
Because of the way you treat our culture and the way you perpetuate.
Oh, wait, hold on. The way we treat your culture, we have gone to such great calisthenics and ridiculous gymnastics to prove that we're not racist. In fact, it's the worst thing that you could be called in America. We had, during George Floyd 2020, we had hundreds of millions of dollars given to Black Lives Matter. I don't know where that money went. Did it improve material worth of black America? So, I mean, and we actually do know where it went, actually. And so, but going back to your main contention, when you practice DEI, because that was your main point, right? You are rewarding bad culture. You even acknowledge it. You are saying that someone should be there based on the color of their skin. We say skin color doesn't matter. If you want that position, work harder, study harder, and then you might be able to get that position.
When we're forced into underfunded communities where schools are based off of property value, we can't.
Well, actually, school choice is now the law of the land here in Texas, so that's not correct. Secondly,
do you just expect a single-parent home to pick up and move into some rich neighborhood?
Why are they the single-parent home?
Because of the hundreds of years.
Do you believe in the maxim or the belief that you should take responsibility for your decisions?
It's not just one person's decisions. It's so much deeper than that.
See,
why are you trying to?
That's where you and I have a different belief. You believe in this.
It's not. It's a fact.
No, it's a belief. Again, you have to tell me then, why do Jews do so well? Holocaust didn't impact their material worth. How did Asians do so well? And by the way, even more so, why are Hispanics getting so much wealthier? If we were so racist, why are Hispanics all of a sudden gaining income the last 20 years? There's something.
It's a difference in culture.
Yeah, we're going to stop it right there. And the guy was 100% correct. It's a difference in culture. That's why the Hispanic community is getting richer. That's why immigrants are getting richer. How can this dude right here, going to Texas A&M University, one of the most prestigious universities in Texas, predominantly white university, how can he sit there and claim systemic racism and white supremacy in this country when you're sitting up there and saying all of these things? You will not be allowed to have the freedom to go up there and express yourself the way that you're expressing yourself and indict the university that you're in, the country that you're in of systemic racism and white supremacy. You would not be allowed to say these things in a systemically racist white country. Immigrants, Hispanics, Africans, Asians will not be able to come into this country and succeed. Matter of fact, in a white supremacist country, they won't even be allowed to come into this country. I don't understand this. This guy's victimhood mentality is just, it's a form of a disease at this point, right? It is a form of a disease. This is a virus. I mean, it was talking point after talking point when every time that Charlie was bringing up something and bringing up a point and refuting what he was saying, it was one thing after another. It's never ending, and that's what I don't understand. where does it end? What do you want? Right? Because all of these places and cities and communities that he's talking about that are underfunded, that are not being taken care of, are taken care of by black people. All of these cities are ran by black leaders. Baltimore, Memphis, St. Louis, Chicago, Oakland, all of these cities have black mayors, black leaders, black police chief, right? Black superintendents, black school board, right? City council. Everybody that's running these cities are black. And you can't say they're underfunded. That's not true. They get more funding, more and more funding every single year. So it's not money. It's bad policies. It's bad leadership. It's bad black Democrats. That's what it is, right? Because if you were to put in a Republican, a conservative, it will change. But you guys keep voting for Democrats, and it will never change. It will never change. And that's the problem, right? We can use the excuse of, the black fathers not being in the homes and, black fathers being incarcerated. Right, those could be reasons. But the biggest reason now is leadership. It's leadership. It's bad leadership. That's all that it is. These cities have been ran by these black Democrats for over 50, 60 years. And that's what doesn't make any sense, right? How can you go from being a thriving community with the highest employment rate, the highest marriage rate, right? The lowest kids being born out of wedlock right after the civil rights movement, which are the people that were closest to slavery. How are they doing and have better statistics than the black community now? It just doesn't make any sense. Who are furthest away from the oppression and slavery, who have more wealth and more opportunities. Those people that were living during the Jim Crow, and Byron Donalds got flack for saying this. He was saying, well, the black community were doing better statistically as far as income and, fathers being in homes and, families that are, two-parent household and kids not being born out of wedlock, the incarceration rate, the highest graduation rates. All of these things were happening during the Jim Crow era where there was less opportunities, more oppression, more segregation. How is that happening? And now people are more free, more opportunity, have more opportunities, make more money, right? Have literally no oppression at all. I don't know why people are saying you're oppressed now. But, how is that possible? It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I do not get it at all. So, people like this guy right here, it's just endless oppression and victimization of self. That's all that it is. He's just victimizing himself. And I feel sorry for him, right? Because this type of rhetoric is literally what keeps people in the same position. Because what can you do about it, right? What can you do about it? What are you going to do about it? There's no solution because you're always going to be black. And this country is majority white, and that's not going to change for a very long time. So if you can't change your skin color, and you can't change the demographic of this country, then how can you change your victimhood status? You can't. You will never be able to. Because these people's victimhood status is based upon the power structure. And so if white people are going to be the majority white in this country for a very long time, the power structure is probably not going to change. Your skin color is not going to change. So your victimhood status is never going to change. No matter how hard you study, right? That's the problem here. Because why would you study hard? Why would you work hard? Why would you take risk? Right? If these things will never change, if my skin color will never change and the demographic and the power structure of this country will never change, why would I apply myself? Why would I work hard? Why would I study hard? Why would I apply myself? If I could never ever achieve the highest, plateau of success that I can. If I'm always going to be held back because of my skin color that I could never change and the demographic and the power structure of this country that I could never change. I might as well not apply myself. I might as well not go as hard as I could possibly go. Why would I? It's a lost effort. So you're telling kids growing up now in this country that, hey, no matter what you do, right? That's the problem. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you go, no matter how, how high your dreams are, it is going to be very hard for you to achieve that. And that is ass backwards to me. That is backwards thinking. That is backwards thinking, in my opinion. You can't help yourself out of anything if you're always a victim of something. And I think the biggest reason that I cannot relate to this type of mindset, Because one, I'm black, right, and I'm an immigrant. So there's two things going against me, right? Quote unquote. I should be a victim of something, right? But I could never relate to that because I'm in this country, the most freest country in the world that has ever existed. They allowed me to come here in a white supremacist, racist country, right? They allowed me to come here and become a citizen, right? So I could never see how this country could be a white supremacist country, right? And two, me and my family were able to be successful, right? Very successful. Came into this country with nothing. My parents literally was working dead-end jobs, working at gas stations and Walmarts, barely spoke this language. My dad was working 2-3 jobs at the same time. My dad was also murdered. My family is a victim as well, right? So we had all of these things going against us, but my siblings are very successful. My mom is very successful. She's very happy, right? Both of my siblings are married. They have their own families. I'm about to get married. I'll have my own family. So I could never see these things. I've been able to achieve anything that I put my mind to. Any opportunity that I seen that I could take advantage of, I took advantage of. I was able to go to college and graduate. Both my siblings have master's degrees in predominantly white schools, from predominantly white schools, got scholarships. Right? So I could never see myself as a victim. It's impossible. If I saw myself as a victim, I would actually be a failure to what my parents tried to achieve for us. If I came into this country and the sacrifices that they made to leave their home and bring us here to give us these opportunities, and if I stay here and play to be a victim, they might as well not have came. Why? Why? So that's why I could never, ever, ever relate to this mindset. I can't sympathize with it. Because you have people like myself and other immigrants that come into this country with nothing, can't speak the language, barely know the system, don't really understand anything, right? Have to learn everything, right? Have to assimilate to the culture and the way of life, right? Their school credentials and their degrees, that didn't mean nothing when they came to this country, right? So we practically had to start over. And did very well. And did practically started from the bottom. But my parents refused to get on welfare, which they could have qualified for. They refused to get on government assistance, which they refused to get on, right? They qualified for all these things. They refused. They didn't want to. They knew they could pull themselves up with their bootstraps, right? You guys hate that. So I cannot relate whatsoever to this mindset. I feel sorry for this guy, man. I feel sorry for this guy. Hopefully he digs himself out of this mindset. Most of us fall into this trap, especially when you're a college-aged individual. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button down below. Let me know what your opinions are. And, of course, if you are brand new, consider hitting subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.